Welcome everybody, and thank you all for coming this evening. My name is Amy and I work at October Books in Southampton. We're here today because Sarah Misselbrook has just published her book, Upon Reflection. The book is a reflective process looking back over 20 years of the artist's multidisciplinary practice. Upon Reflection presents observational sketches, photography of processes and performances to camera, gallery-based exhibitions, site-specific sculptural installations, and the written word. From clinical spaces to burnt forest environment, the visual journey through the publication shows a migration from on to off-grid existence and a closeness to the cycle of life and death. And we at October Books are very, very proud to be the sole UK stockist of the book. A little bit about October Books before we start. We are Southampton's only radical independent bookshop. We're also a cooperative. We've been going since 1977, which is over 40 years, which is pretty good going. As well as books like Sarah's book, Upon Reflection, we also sell ethical food and household items, including olive oil, the Reba Rocks olive oil, which is also made by Sarah's bare hand. Ordinarily, a talk like this would be held in the community space at the rear of the shop, but due to COVID-19, all of our online schedule of events has been moved online. This has been a bit of a sad thing because it's lovely to have things in person and to have people in the room, but an amazing opportunity to host events like this with Sarah being Catalonia, me being in Southampton, and all of you being here from your various living rooms. It's an incredible platform to show off authors' works, artists' works, and also this evening there'll be some performance work making this entire event a work of art in its own right, which is an absolute pleasure. The evening is going to run as follows. First of all, Sarah will show her Rant from the Rock video, which is a performance work created for the Laboratory of Dissent. That's going to be about 5 minutes. Following this, Sarah and Maija will be presenting a live extract of their conversational poetry written this summer as part of the journey of Sarah's book. The full conversation is available as part of the extra digital material accessed by scanning the QR code at the back of the book. Finally, there'll be a work created especially for this evening's event. Sarah will present a new recorded spoken word piece. A little bit of housekeeping, which you will all have heard earlier on, which is if you can remain on mute for the duration of this event, that would be fantastic. If you have any questions or queries or comments, please just put them in the chat box and I will field them at the end. If you haven't got the book already and you would like the book, I'll be putting links in the chat box as well of how you can buy it and also how you can donate to October Books if you would like there to be more events like this. I did also mention we are recording this. You're not being recorded, only Sarah, Maija and myself are being recorded, so you have nothing to worry about there. Before I hand over to them, it's an absolute pleasure to introduce both Sarah Misselbrook and Maija Liepins, Maija who did the foreword to the book. Sarah Misselbrook was born in Southampton and now works and resides in the valley, tucked away in the mountains of rural Catalonia. The artist's new book, Upon Reflection 2020, is a 20-year retrospective study of her practice. From clinical spaces to burnt forest environment, the visual journey through the publication shows a migration from on to off-grid existence and a closeness to the cycle of life and death. Misselbrook addresses issues surrounding gender, feminism, the female body as canvas and consumer. Measuring, perfecting, breaking, and healing envelops her creative process while commenting on the discipline, but futile quest for an unattainable perfection. Misselbrook studied her BA at Nottingham-Trent and her MA at Winchester School of Art, with further residencies in Cyprus and South Korea. The artist has created works at Southampton's medieval vaults, Catalonia's burnt forests, Cyprus' sandy beaches, and South Korea's volcanic island of Jeju. Maija Liepins is an associate artist at Chapel Art Studios in North Hampshire. Liepins' work is sensory, often meditative, depicting emotional landscapes and inviting interactive encounters. Engaging with one another via Instagram, then WhatsApp, the year 2019 brought Sarah and Maija together in a spontaneous collaboration while they're contributing to the Laboratory of Dissent, version 2, Inside Outside. Together through dialogue, we can use a context of dissent to remember to ask of ourselves and each other in all of our interactions. What is your no? What is your yes? What is happening in the space in between us? What can you do to honour yourself, your environment, and your relations, especially when that means acting or responding differently? These questions help us find alternatives to prescribed notions and especially pertinent for the relationships we collectively find ourselves in relation to other things, in our non-human ecology, such as the planet itself and our respective beloved forests. Thank you so much for being here. Very, very happy to hand over to them now.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'm trying to connect to you. If you can't hear me, if you can't access this, and we can't connect, then what is this? This is not a performance. What is this if there is no audience? Am I completely voiceless? I'm trying to connect to you remotely. I am outside the system, off the grid, unplugged. Do I still even have a voice? Or is this voice louder and clearer from here? My solitary voice. I am distant, detached from you physically. Perhaps I am at risk of being disconnected. I am out of range. Maybe I am completely inaccessible. Where are you? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? You are outside of my reach, and I am here in the forest. 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 Out of doors. External or extrinsic. I am in the open air. This external space. I am in the wilds, an uncultivated, uncontrolled, uninhabited space. Immersed in this natural world. I swim between the boundary of the real and the imaginary. Uncategorized, marginalized. I am on the fringe or the periphery. In between, out of the way. I am so disorientated here. Conflicted even. I am on the outskirts, and yet I am inside the forest. Forest. Foreign. I am foreign. I'm a foreigner here. I am an immigrant, a non-native. I am a non-resident, an alien. I am strange, uprooted, far away. I am different, unfamiliar, and unknown. I am an expatriate, an outsider. I am in the gateway between belonging and exclusion. I am not born of this place. So what am I? I am inside the forest. I am man, woman, animal. I am all and other. Untamed, savage, exotic. I am of the woods, fierce, ferocious, undomesticated, and yet so vulnerable. I am life and death, connected to the outside. I am in the forest. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? You can find me through the door, outside, out here we are connected. I am settled here. deep rooted inside this valley, outside the village, inside an autonomous region, outside your island, inside a continent. My status, outside, inside the forest.
Where does it become normalized, this disconnection from the sap and the fruit, the soil and the heart, the water and the wind, all echoing me? We echo, echo. Yes, perhaps I'm only just catching it now, a fragment of your utterance. You shouted it in the valley, you did, atop the rock, the widow's knee, the giant's table, the sky dancer's plateau. I know you did. I sat on a chair in a darkened lecture hall and saw you reach out again. Can you hear me? Yes, of course, posted, delivered and received. But now, a heart quiver, a true whisper, the echo, echo. Which land formation, which organic being speaks to the heart thusly? Echoes, echoes. Not to bounce off surfaces, not to skid a lonely dance down hostile halls, but to reverberate with a textured shiver, an emotive piercing, a tender message. This pain is not just my own.
The return to the rock. It's calling me in this darkness, an unlit stage until the full moon as my guide, casting shadows of the negative me. The nighttime offers a cooler breeze to move this body of mine up, up into the forest. I will return. Dry, aching bones, still for now. But when September comes, I will answer its call. Until then, hunker in the shadows to escape the summer sun, to oil the knobbly knees and then march to the beat of my heart. Echoes, echoes, in the darkness, with only the mating call of the toads for company. The shadows of the olive trees show the way. I hear you.
She claimed the knees! She claimed the knees! A susurration whispers through the dusk. Alchemical craftsmanship, nature shows the way.
It's as if through some portal in this natural valley's stone, you bear witness to this performing body. With your reference to these knobbly knees and lichen-covered feet, bare and clay-clad. Skin darkens and dries with each day, passing this baton to you.
Do you become the land, or does the land become you? Do you begin to speak of each other's rhythms, mirroring each other like a lover's kiss in the lake of dreams? Alone, who is the witness? Performing, the action is gathered unto the moment. And do you surrender to it and to nature in the listening? Or does the land and the nature surrender itself to you? Its ash, its sun-ripened fruit, its lichen lace and bark crumbs. Who is isolated, caught in time, cast in shiny whiteness, a pose of a former action, replaced, like a ghost of the negative she, whomever they may be? Do you lay a time this way, inhabiting space with your former expression? Or do the art objects become alive, less like ghosts and more like vessels for dialogue or memory, material musings to dress and redress with new layers of the onion? Do you cook with onions in your kitchen? These onions, these questions, are questions of myself, of you, simultaneously. I ask them, and they are our questions. My questions of you, I ask of myself, and the answers arrive in your voice. Echoes, echoes. Not a copy like a record, but a unique carbon echo. Material matters willing themselves into question. For you, and I, and us, and them, without borders suddenly in this dialogue. A mystical place almost with natural laws of its own. A lived process where the performance is not a show so much as a function of the answer, answering previously unuttered questions. Not to be uttered questions, for within the action is the feltination. I just invented that word. It's like sensation, but it's not a sensing into or a sense of to understand, more a feeling of, touching, like the words and questions mark the earth and rock and heart and limb. These marks on bodies, consensual negotiation, less give and take, more offering and selection. These marks on bodies, invisible art, adorning the process with the story of the action performed in life.
My hands, my feet, my body are no longer mine, cast to become a negative me, temporarily restricted and then freed into the world. A shadow cast in pure white plaster, still and peaceful. An offering of time to nature, an utterance, a musical note of pleasure and pain. Death masks of a life connected. Hands and feet touch every inch of this land, leaving their mark. A spiritual or religious offering to place, a shared space, no longer mine, but ours.
The constriction of the negative she curled whitely on the floor, secured by a metal spine, echoed my own constriction. Past, present, and empathetic. It was like looking at my insides on the stone floor. Not the organs and bones, but the emotional landscape and energy flows, like ice flows and riverbeds, sun wheels and knitted baskets of memory clogging the stream. I learned one thing though. Feltination can forecast the beyond other me before it is experienced and press on like a North Star, guiding my quest.
Emotional landscape, yes. As if experiencing the work like Braille, navigating over the sculptural surface, contours, spikes, smoothness, imperfections. The white cast sits within another emotional landscape within its own history, its own story, a medieval vault, an underground crypt, a cobbled stone floor, dust-ridden surfaces, presenting purity in contrast, a juxtaposition of the visual, hard against soft, pure against tainted, skeletal against fleshy.
For me, it took on the modern fairy tale quality, its underground secret body echoing the underneath inner of Rapunzel's tower where this conversation started. Rapunzel said, "I shave my head because," and you echoed for me another layer, these layers of me, of space, of rooms.
Hairless, she will forever remain underground. A closer to the earth cry, with layers of prescription placed upon her, self-determined, self-saving, her own warrior, deep, profound.
I'm thinking about prescription or not, wondering about the felt sense of this word which comes up again and again. To prescribe, to adopt, to prescribe, to rebel, to prescribe, scribe-lined, groove-marked, written, pre-planned script. Whose script is this? Awareness blooming inside the body. We take it in, don't we? Inside, under the skin, as you say, into the flesh, and cry it out in rivers, in flow, flowing with the process, creative, destructive, exploring and questing, refining, distilling and stirring, extracting so we can see it on the outside. Artifacts of process. More and more, I feel like the art object is not the art, but the catalyst for conversation. The relic of consummation, or integration, or any manner of things, body to body, my material musings, hers, the whisper of the land beckoning me. Seriously though, whose prescription is this? That is the question. Do I have freedom of movement? Is this my creation? Do I have a choice? And in that choice, what do I wish to create with you, with this, with the material of alive matters? Rapunzel says, "My hair is growing back, and this time it is mine, tendriling up from the not so silent earth, like vigorous vine, like fire-threaded, sun-warmed wheat. I have made a break from your prescriptions. I have taken time alone and shaven to rewrite my dreams, and now the energy stirs like renewal of the fruiting tree, pushing up from the wasteland, alerting us to the secret fertility hidden in the pores."
Your words enrich. The process, enrich the book as object to consume non-prescribed responses to the artwork. It is no longer mine, liberated by the additions of others, the sharing and collaborative approach. The book, printed from the forest, another offering back to the forest, leaves, pages, cover, bark, spine, trunk, reflection, connection. It's been a time to pause, a time to reflect. Time is such a strange concept. Time to focus on what? On what matters. On matter, material, body, health, the planet, us. disturbed by the perpetual consumption of it all. Perhaps self-consumption was the only solution I could find at that time. 20 years. 20 años. 20 años. Consuming oneself, ridding oneself of the fleshy, fatty messiness of life, taking up less and less space in this world. Unsustainable. Living and working in and of the moment does not allow the space for reflection. Time to reflect, and upon reflection, I see it so clearly now. The pause, the gift of time to learn from oneself and others. I took time to allow my body to flow in the current of time, to ask questions of myself and the work, to reflect on this body of work, on my body inscribed, asking questions. Questions are part of the journey towards something other. Only knowing what not to do, unplugging from you, the system, the prescription, disconnecting from you in order to reconnect, to rediscover, searching for an other, isolated now, off-grid, rurality, locality, sustainability, gaining a close physical connection to the smaller, but the far greater ants, birds, spiders. Spin your web around me, envelop me in your silk. My body is matter and function, input and output, fuel and energy. Composting my waste, I create new life. My roots, your trunk, my stem, your branches, my leaves, grounded, rooted. I am you, you are me, we are each other. My hands, mis manos, mis mans. This is where I am living, in the space between the messiness of life, in an attempt to make some sort of artistic order from the chaos, the division, the sameness. The dissenting voices ascend themselves into something other. Isolation, full of insecurity, but a knowing, fact, play my part, my role, myself isolated from my loved ones, longing, long, drawn out days, shortening now. I am here with you, without you, full of hope and energy. Coolness in my blood flows for the future. Days of darkness, we will get through this. This is a journey we embark on together. Your thoughts are part of this process. Your reactions to accessing these words, these images, the book. The book is now an object to consume. It is tangible, real, and long-lasting. Unlike the transient works which degrade over time, they rot, break down, and age. However, now the book holds them tight, safely enveloping them within its spine, in its covering of the leaves, the pages, the thoughts, which are fleeting moments of life and death. Now embodied within a visual and textual journey of practice,
of mistakes, of offerings, apologies, atonement, together, self, us, here connecting. Come with me on this journey. We're here but apart. Together, my thoughts and processes are now yours. Togetherness, to simultaneously consume and digest, become full of book, body, chapters, organs, spine, skeleton, pages, muscles, words, flesh, images, skin, an object created for you to consume, to fill your belly, to flesh you out, to satisfy your appetite for restoration. I hope.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That was absolutely amazing to see your art and your process, and how the book has come about, and the conversation with Maija as well is just such an insightful thing. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time. It's been incredible. Thank you so much.
You're absolutely welcome. Honestly, it's been a complete honour, and I'm just so pleased to see so many lovely faces watching in from around the world. So thank you everyone for coming.
Some you recognise, I expect, and some that you don't as well.
Absolutely, yes, a good mix.
There's a couple of questions in the chat box already, but I think a lot of people have been mesmerised by the visuals and obviously the audio stuff as well. So I'm going to give people a few moments to add anything that they'd like to in there, because I will be fielding them as of now. I have a question before we go to anybody else, because I have that right, because I'm the host. The conversation between you and Maija, did that naturally arise, or did you sort of say, hang on a second, we can create something that would work as poetry or as a work of art? Shall we do this? Yes, we will. Or did it just sort of naturally happen?
This is why Maija is here, because she will have the perfect answer to this. I will have a less perfect answer, in that I was lucky enough to receive a WhatsApp message from Maija with a proposal of playing a game. And that game was going to be all across. Maija and I have never met face to face. We have met digitally over 2 years ago through the Laboratory of Dissent. But it was specifically a message that Maija sent me, proposing that we started a wordplay game. And up until that very point in my practice, I hadn't really used a lot of the written word in my work. So it was very much a, yes, please, I'm on board, let's do it, let's do this. I'm sure Maija could add a little bit more to that as well. Go for it, Maija.
Sure. Yes, so it kind of did happen accidentally, but also not, depends how you look at it. So Sarah and I were both contributing to the Laboratory of Dissent in 2019. And I was working with the image of, in my mind's eye, of Rapunzel with a shaved head. And it was as simple as,
I've never shaved my head before. Sarah has. I need Rapunzel's voice, not mine. And so I said, will you play a game? And it was founded on the idea of an echo. So I would say, Maija says, or Rapunzel says, or something, and that Sarah would reply with the beginning, the first word or sentence, the first phrase, but then take it in a different direction. So it had that loose structure. And we sort of, I think it was about 1 week or 2 weeks, where we just did that at the same time every morning for like 30 minutes to an hour. And that first conversation was more completely by accident, in that I didn't know that it was going to work so well. I didn't know that Sarah would be able to just jump right in and join me in a completely uncensored flow of just witnessing and co-writing. But it gave us the experience of this works. So when Sarah said, would you write the foreword for my book? Somewhere along the lines, I suggested that we do it again with a focus on her themes and themes. And we didn't have, by that point, we didn't have a format so much. It was just back and forth. And so the words would, again, it was a couple of weeks at a time, and it's just messenger, isn't it? It's just like 1 or 2 messages throughout the day, big messages, but yeah. So in terms of it rolling out over time, it wasn't as condensed as when it ends up being shared.
How long from start to finish was it then, from the start of the conversation to has it concluded?
That's a very good question.
It never feels like it's concluded. But about a month, wasn't it?
I was just looking back at the start date we had for that one was the middle of August. Hence my my very dry skin and kind of hunkering in the shadows to escape the sun. Obviously that feels completely alien now. We're in December 3rd. And it went on from mid-August all the way through to the end of September. So I think, about 5 or 6 weeks on and off, just as and when we felt the urge to respond or to echo or to begin a new theme, without, this time, when it led up to the book, without any preconceived idea or without any limitations or restrictions or guidelines. Or so if we could go days without anything happening, and then something would kind of crop up that one of us would want to talk about, or so yeah, just a really lovely way to work, and actually probably does then reflect my the sculptural practice as well, is that idea that you can work from something, produce something, and then that leads on to producing something else. So you almost set that thing in motion that you can't quite explain, but it leads on to other possibilities. Yeah.
I love what you said, Maija, about it being uncensored, because there's definitely a real sense of intimacy that you've managed to create with 2 people in little boxes on Zoom. Do you know what I mean? It's a really interesting way of creating something, and you've made a real connection in what you're doing.
We discuss it at some point in the flow. It only works if it's a stream of consciousness, if it's just what's there. But I did, when we first met on Zoom, that was one of the first things we said, like, it's kind of unbelievable. I've got no idea how we created that. Trust or effect, really. It just happened. I
think, sorry, just one last note on that. I just think that the it's almost like it's almost a total lack of inhibition and or expectation. So when Maija and I finally met each other digitally, we realized the difference in that encounter. And now the thought process that goes on before you allow yourself to speak and address someone and to connect with someone, albeit digitally. And that just seemed to, as you said, the uncensoredness of that engagement and interaction was so freeing, and therefore opens up all manners of possibilities of play and growth and development. Yeah.
It's so relatable in the modern world as well, isn't it? You know, with so many interactions, so many personal, deep interactions being made, particularly now on WhatsApp and Messenger, and, you know, without even a visual image to accompany it, it's just words.
Mm.
It helps that we're talking in poetry as well, because when I'm using poetic language, or to me, poetry has less rules in terms of what you say or write than, you know, the conventions of normal social discourse. So that, for me, I think, was the secret to being free with the words.
We've had a question in the chat box from Chris, who has asked, I think to you, Sarah, what is it about the fig tree that interests you so much?
I am a self-confessed fig tree obsessive. I read a book a few years ago, and after hearing the author on a radio show, he'd written his thesis about how his PhD thesis about how the fig tree will save the planet. And having a fig tree just outside my house, I'm very lucky to have a fig tree just outside the house, I do end up watching it a lot throughout the seasons and noticing it, and its ability to survive. And the fruit is self-pollinating, so it doesn't rely on any other species to continue its existence. It's incredibly self-reliant. And locally, olive farmers see the fig tree as a weed on their land, so they tend to just set fire to the fig to just rid it from the olive farm, so it doesn't take sort of much needed water. And then within, say, 1 or 2 seasons, the fig tree will come back bigger, bushier, more bountiful, more fruit. So I think secretly the farmers are kind of looking after it, but sort of pretending that they're weeding their farm. And after an absolutely devastating forest fire here in Catalonia last summer, it reminded me of the fragility of everything, us, planet, animal, and for the fig tree just to be that constant reminder that death leads to new life, and it is all part of that one cycle of existence. And also, that was a very long answer, I'm really sorry. But in short, there is a short answer. The fig leaves are huge, and they're wonderful to smear in olive oil. We have a lot of that. Used olive oil, not fresh, don't worry, I'm not wasting it, it's used olive oil. Pick out the bits of vegetable and whatever. Smooth the leaf with olive oil, and then smooth it with plaster of Paris. And then when that's set, peel the leaf off, and you have your beautiful negative fig leaf in very delicate thin plaster. And that's one of the processes that has fed into very temporary exhibitions and sculptural installations, both here in the burnt forest here in Catalonia, but also an installation in the village of Riba-roja, where near where I live. So there's a material connection there, and there's a conceptual one, I suppose, as well.
Never be scared of giving a long answer. That was a conceptual answer.
Oh, good, thank you.
I'm a fig tree fan as well. I love the fact that the more you restrict their roots, the more they fruit.
Yes.
Brilliant. I love it.
Yeah.
And this had a question through from Helen, who also says, stunning, what an incredible achievement in these times. And her question is, what, who, where is God to you?
Oh.
Never fear the long answer.
Wow. Okay, everyone. Pour your drinks. We're going to settle in for the evening. Oh, wow. Oh, my heart just started pumping really fast. That's okay. I'm going to try and answer this one. I think I'm going to firstly say that I'm an atheist. I think I'm going to follow that up very, very quickly with a wonder and an incredibly deep respect and connection for all life forms and all creatures and fellow animals on this planet that must have some sort of spiritual and deep connection somewhere in my body or in wherever that exists, and perhaps that's my God. I'm really stopping myself from using the word God, and that's interesting me. I'm going to suggest that the short answer then is the what, who, and where for me as an atheist is nowhere, no one, and for no reason. And therefore, there's a massive space of absorption into mind, body, and soul of everything else that I can notice around me and that I can connect with. And if that sends me to some kind of different plane or different, or to transcend some of this material or matter, then perhaps that has spiritual connotations and spiritual connections. That's a very interesting question. I don't think I've ever been asked that question before.
And put on the spot as well.
Sorry, Amy, say that again.
And put on the spot as well.
Yeah, I love being put on the spot. Absolutely love it. Please bring them on, bring it on. Come on, people, come on. No, that's great. And I would love to hear how someone who does believe in a God or God, how then they would respond to that sort of further, because that's very, very interesting.
It's a very good answer.
Oh,
I'm in awe of your answer. You can see, and yeah, you can see with that final video how connected you are to your surroundings in Catalonia. You know, you're scrambling through bushes and touching the ground and really being a part of it. I will not be offended by your answer at all, but did you feel similarly a part of your surroundings when you were in Southampton?
No, there's the short answer.
Fine.
And I'm going to elaborate because you've allowed me a longer answer. I'm going to put that down to my fault. That was my fault. I'm looking back. I haven't lived in Southampton for 16 years now. And so when I was living in Southampton, I was either in education, so in a white box, teaching in a white box, or exhibiting artwork in a white box. So when you don't allow yourself to get out of that context, there is no real connecting with the natural environment. There's beautiful natural environment locally to where I used to live in Southampton. I think I just didn't have the lifestyle that allowed me to connect with it. And I'm sure, and I'm hoping that by now, if I had still been living in Southampton and at my age now, I would definitely be much more connected with the natural environment there. I do still feel very connected with Southampton, with these interactions, and with my family, most of my family still being in Southampton, and one of my sisters being an extraordinary mushroom forager, and following her on Instagram. So I still feel that connection has grown, but looking back, okay, upon reflection, sorry, that was awful.
That was good.
I do think that all of these things that I talk about in the written word pieces, the performances, and that meticulousness of the placing of installational works, it was always a self-made, limited environment. And that's always starts from within. And I'm sure that's always something that we should be reminding ourselves of, is let's get out, let's connect, let's get dirty, let's play in the mud, let's go out in the rain, all of these things. And I do think I think you can see that in the book, actually, when you look at there's almost 10 years of art practice and creating pieces of work for gallery consumption, or for viewing, or for purchasing, or for prettying and adorning. And then there's this latter 10-year section of almost a realization of there's more to all of this, that the art practice can be something so the art practice can involve me harvesting figs and cutting them open to look at their insides, and the art practice can be going out to have a big campfire and sitting around and just watching the flames for 3 hours and in silence. So there's definite chapters there of life and of place. But you're absolutely right. The place I'm in at the moment, which feels incredibly like where I should be right now, is still inspirational and very much affecting what I produce.
It would be, obviously it was your decision to move to a very rural, isolated area. It would be very interesting to see had you not have made that decision, what your artwork would be like if you had have been in, you know, a big city, be it Southampton or anywhere else that you've lived, if, you know, the work, the thought processes, if they would have come to the same place but been sort of displayed in a different way. I mean, I can't imagine the Rant from the Rock being done in a place that isn't there, you know, with that kind of landscape, but maybe it would have been.
That's interesting about the Rant. When I was producing that for CAS artists, a couple of months afterwards, I was deliberating about, I visited the UK 2 months after that. And I was thinking, should I pack those clothes I was wearing? And should I pack the script? And I don't know, go into the centre of Southampton precinct or something, just outside West Quay or somewhere, and do it again. I didn't. I'm very interested in what would happen if I did. I mean, the context of me stood on a rock and shouting in a very private, isolated area where literally nobody could hear me, versus the population of Southampton or doing their Saturday Christmas shopping or something, you know, I don't know, phoning the police or I don't know, but it would be really interesting. I have had little bits and bobs of experience, like when I was in South Korea, I wanted to have a campfire and have the group of students I was working with, we all sit around the campfire, and we were going to make our own drawing charcoal. And the school health and safety official said, you know, you're not having a campfire on school premises. That's way too dangerous. So I said, don't worry. What we'll do is we'll just go outside of the school premises. It was a gated community school, and we'll have it just over there, like 6 foot away from the school boundary. And they couldn't stop us. So we just left the school, had our big campfire. And I mean, that was a very clinical environment, the school. It was an incredibly affluent boarding college in Jeju. But the experience that the students got, I think then, where it was, you know, get dirty, have a campfire and make some charcoal and then do some drawing with it. Yeah, let's break the rules. Let's do, you know, bend the rules, sorry, if anyone's listening from Jeju. So there have been moments like that where I guess it's almost a breaking out of that white box. So perhaps it would make me, I don't know, would it make me a bit more rebellious if I came back to Southampton and worked in Southampton? Possibly. I'd possibly get arrested at some point. I don't know. It would be really good experiment though, wouldn't it? Let's try it. After COVID, I'll come back for a 6-month residency. You would be very, very welcome. And those kids will no doubt have that as one of their formative memories, with the campfire and the charcoal. And that's, I hope so. Such a wonderful thought, isn't it? That they'll carry that through into adulthood as something that, you know, will really stick in their minds. Amazing. Another little question from Chris saying, would your voice be less effective at reaching out in a busy city with all of the noise rather than the rock? I can shout. I can really shout. Yeah, I think I quite like, yeah, possibly. It's funny actually that all of these questions, because when I was writing the Rant, excuse me, and it says in there, you know, or is this solitary voice even louder and even clearer from here? You know, it's kind of it's kind of an oxymoron, isn't it? Because if you guys didn't turn up, no one would see it, and there wouldn't be any audience, and there wouldn't be a performance, and we could all undo everything. And why do it? Why, you know, it's the whole, you know, the whole thing of if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to see it, hear it. But I wonder, then would people pay less attention if I was to stand up and shout in a city full of people, because they'll just dismiss it as being something a bit weird or a bit, I don't know, very interesting. I could try it in Barcelona. Oh no, we're still in lockdown. I can't go to Barcelona at the moment, but I like the idea of trying to shout over something though, and having lots of background noise. I think that sounds interesting. That's kind of what I wanted to do a little bit with the last video, the one that we showed for the first time here tonight, was that visual of almost wanting to kind of squint and feeling like there was just almost too much going on or too much interference and getting out of breath, and that struggle, and that, so actually trying to shout over background noise would be quite interesting.
I have noted that the concept of play has come up on a number of occasions, you know, the word play between you and Maija, and also, you know, you were saying about sort of playing, sort of, you know, playing with sticks and with fire and with all of those things. Would you say that play has always been a part of your work, or has it been more of a part of your work now you're living where you're living?
I think that's always been there for sure. And when you, yeah, I'm just remembering a piece that I made out of white chocolate, and I just remember the trips to the local Tesco's and the trolley full of big bars of white cooking chocolate. I don't know, 50, 100 quid's worth of white chocolate would be bought in one round, and they obviously gave me some funny looks. But yeah, so in the flat I used to live in Southampton would always be full of the smell of something that I was melting for a cast or a mold or a piece of work. There'd be collections of hair if I'd just recently shaved my head in the corner of the room. There'd be, I don't know, scents, and so I think I was bringing that indoors. You know, collections of things and playful melting of things. Yeah, probably much more fire-based. Now I have the space and the land and the fuel to burn, but back then I think it was still playful. And I think the whole process of mold making and sculpting with clay and mixing plaster and getting my hands dirty, and I think that's probably been there even before I called myself a practitioner, an artist, whatever I am. I think there's a photograph that would quite demonstrate that perfectly, and I'm sure I'm only about 5 or 6 in it, and I've got a pretty little dress on and I'm absolutely covered in mud. So I think that's always been there, that idea of feeling completely connected and at home and belonging in the dirt and covered in, and the soil here on the olive farm, the soil is like clay. So when it rains, it's moldable and it's sticky, and it's stunning. So that, yeah, definitely very playful.
Excellent. We've got time for another couple of questions, and then we'll probably wrap up. So first question from Ramina saying, are birds, trees and life in the forest hearing you? Are they the audience?
Yes. Funnily enough, I'm sure there are some birds that have like a sort of 11's coffee morning meeting just outside the house. And it mirrors the on a weekly basis, usually in normal times, I would come into the village for a little cafe con leche. And the bars are full of women in their sort of 50s or 60s, and they'll get together and all be talking at the same time in very fast Catalan, and I'll sit and just listen, and it's beautiful, and it reflects that's what I think of when I hear the birds having their little coffee and cake 11s in the olive trees in the valley. And so yes, absolutely, and the trees. Yes. I thank you, Romina, and hello. And that's a really beautiful question, because now there is an audience. It doesn't have to be human, does it? Of course not. How wonderful. Lovely.
And the final question is actually for Maija, which is great because it's a bit of a technical question. She's asking if the second video was scripted. Is the second video scripted? If so, how did you walk and talk?
Sorry, Amy, can you say that again, the question?
It went a bit wonky, didn't it?
Yes, it did, just a little.
Maija has asked, was the second video scripted? And if so, how did you walk and talk?
Oh, well, I was exhausted after filming that. I did about two or three takes. And I'm really glad you've asked this question, because I really wanted to mention this and you've just reminded me about it. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Right, and I'm sorry to do this, but I'm going to refer to the book.
Yay.
Right.
What page?
Oh, page, yeah, good question. 15, 16, 17, 18. Page 18.
Uh-huh.
Can we?
Yes.
A series of film stills that were 4 separate video files. This will answer your question. Sorry, this is going to be a little bit of a long one.
Right.
4 separate video files of me consuming communion wafers. And then the video files were reversed, so it looked like I was kind of purging the wafers. And they spell out, you can watch the videos on the website, they spell out the words "come with me," and in the final one, I'm running naked through the valley. And I realized the other night that that piece of work was created exactly 10 years ago. So it was like a halfway point in the book. So it was post-UK, just moved to Catalonia, after Cyprus, come with me on this journey. I'm running through the valley, let's go. And at the point in which, in the valley where I stopped running, so I kind of got to my end goal and that was that for that piece, I used as my starting point for this new video. So 10 years on, the new video then takes us from that new starting point all the way up the mountain, as you could see, right to the top. And there you've got your 360 view of the mountains and,
wow.
and the village. So
was that conscious?
Was it what?
Did
sorry,
you do
Matt?
it conscious? Was it on purpose that you started where it finished?
No, it was it? I can't remember whether it was planned or not.
Semi-conscious.
I wanted to be really out of breath. That's the one thing I knew. I really wanted to be out of breath. And I thought, I'm going to have to go steep here because I'm not going to be running. I'm going to be scrambling, but not running. And if I start on the flat land, I'm not going to get out of breath very much. So let's go high. And it just so happened to be at that starting point was the end point from the previous movie. all the way up the hill. And wow, I don't know how the mountain goats or the ibex or the boar do it, but wow, that was tough, seriously. Scratches all over me. I had my iPod in my pocket on record, these in to obviously record the voice. And then I had my old rubbishy iPhone with the script on in case I needed to refer to it in one hand. With the other hand, kind of, as you can see in the video, like propping me up if I fell over, or I did practice it a few times. I did need to look at it a couple of times, but I think, yeah, I think it was about the third or fourth attempt. That was the video that you've just seen. But I had to have a half-hour break in between each take because that was pretty physical. But it's also a great way to keep warm this time of year. Just hike up the mountain and no, it was good fun.
Fantastic. I think that's all of the questions that we had in the chat box and all we've got time for. So I wanted to say thank you so much for, as I said, being so generous with your time and sharing your work with us as well. It's been such a different kind of event for us here at October Books, and one that I've thoroughly enjoyed. And yeah, thank you to Maija as well for her part in the conversation. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And a big thank you to everybody else that's come here as well this evening. It's really lovely to see your faces and to be experiencing this whole thing together, even though we're at home in our own homes and offices and bedrooms and on our sofas and everything. So if you don't have the book, please do drop us a line at info@octoberbooks.org and we will sort you out. If you live in Southampton, you can come and collect. If you don't live in Southampton, we can post it to you. Thank you very much, Sarah.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks so much, everyone. Lovely to see you all. Yay.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed.